Hi everyone, this is Genevieve again. I am here making a video. It's not the best subject, but I feel like it's something pretty important to be brought up when being in the media, and especially trying to venture off and trying to learn exactly where you fit in the media or in careers in general. This is nothing to be taken in a personal way or in any way an attack on the company. This is just me speaking on the behalf of my own personal experience. Does not mean that my experience will apply to other people. Going with 𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗘 Media, when I first started, I think my last video and how I was speaking about how 𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗘 Media is going to eventually help me gain some skills to integrate into my entrepreneurial journey for what's your journey, right? And at first I was really excited and I thought the company was going to really go a long way to continue establishing my own business. And while I did learn in the first month of being in 𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗘 Media marketing skills, such as how to do more social media content, and I do appreciate that. However, there are things that eventually did fall out of place. One thing that I realized, I think there was maybe perhaps some kind of cultural clash in between what I may not know that's in Miami, where 𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗘 Media is originally located, versus where I'm at in Central Florida, where there's a shift in culture. Because of that cultural shift, the Latino work ethics, they're a little bit more lenient. It could be seen as not being taken seriously.
So I want to talk about Hofstede's cultural dimensional theory and how it applies to my experience with 𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗘 Media. 𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗘 Media has strong roots in Cuban culture. Now, I couldn't find official info on Cuba's culture within the cultural dimension theory, but I looked at nearby Latin countries like Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and Venezuela to get an idea because they share similar values as Cuba. So here's what I found. There are two big cultural differences that really stood out. When we want to talk about power distance, this is all about how much a culture accepts that the boss or person in charge is above everyone else. So in countries like the US, people expect leaders to treat others more equally or speak up when things feel off. But in many Latin cultures, people are more used to the boss having the final say, and you're not really expected to question them. So when we look at individualism here versus collectivism, this is about whether people focus more on themselves or the group. So in the US, we're taught to chase our own goals, speak our minds, and do what's best for you. But in Latin cultures, there's more focus on the team, staying loyal, and keeping things peaceful, even if that means not speaking up. So how does this ultimately affect how I felt at 𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗘 Media? Well, I thought we'd have clear roles, deadlines, and communication, but instead things felt unclear and hard to navigate sometimes. When I tried to talk about professional boundaries, I didn't believe we went over it well. At first, I thought maybe I was doing something wrong, but then I realized we just had very different ideas about what professionalism in the workplace means. Now, this doesn't excuse the lack of structure or leadership I experienced. That still mattered to me, but understanding these cultural differences helped me realize that some of our miscommunication wasn't personal. It was, in fact, cultural.
I'm just assuming, but I think Miami is heavily influenced by other countries nearby. Eventually, over time, a lot of what we wanted to do, such as the interviews that we planned on doing, either she would go out in Miami and interview senior citizens, and the plan was for me to eventually also go out and venture to interview people in Central Florida, where I can get a different perspective of the people she interviews over there versus here. It might be a bit different, and I think that's what we wanted to build together. It's not that the company was lying about it or anything. It's just simply that the timing expectations were not met. Sure, I struggle with time management, but I think that's also the reason why I have to be taking these early career opportunities so that I'm able to eventually overcome those obstacles when it comes to my own assignments or my own personal projects. And so I was hoping that there would be some type of collaboration, even though it was a non-paid opportunity. I'm recently coming out of college. I do help myself with side income, like with services and selling things. And I also do brand ambassador works. I figured, okay, I have space to give for somebody that is giving a non-paid opportunity. Unfortunately, I felt like it was under the disguise of being called an intern. simply because the company was not just strictly hiring college people, it was also other people that may not have the experience of the role that the company was looking for. And so it was really misleading, just what the company tries to portray versus what was really going on behind the scenes. It was a lot of stagnation, and I think for me, the final call was when my manager, she was going to be on a TV show. It was rescheduled twice, and then rescheduled to a much later date in the month. And I think that was the cherry to the top for me, just to leave 𝗓𝗓𝗏. I don't live close to Miami like the others that she hired over there. I found this opportunity. I think I was just exploring spontaneously, and you just learn. You learn what works for you and what doesn't. I guess I trusted the company enough to stick with the plan. And, you know, I know that there's a lot of things that fall in the media, especially within the journalism field, but when you have things consistently falling apart, you start to lose trust, and especially as someone that doesn't know the company as much as they should have. And I guess I felt like my time was being taken away from me. And while I was waiting for 𝗓𝗓𝗏 to reestablish itself, my personal opinion was that the owner should have already had a structure for each position that they were going to hire, and already have the assignments for those people so that things don't end up having to change eventually. The owner could have came up with roles or assignments that are a little bit more versatile to work with, that don't have to be considered to be changed later on. It is a lot of work to start up your own business. It really is. But at the same time, you cannot misrepresent a company under the guise of something else. I also didn't want to give up too soon. I took my time. Like, it took me a month to finally decide that this isn't working out for me. And, you know, I had a great relationship with the owner, but I also didn't want to only consider that we had a great dynamic. They didn't take the resignation letter well. That's as much as I can say, but I mean, I know that in the end of the day, we all have to learn by ourselves one way or another, however that's going to look like. My advice to people, because of what I went through, if something is not feeling right anymore, you're allowed to speak out about it. And with 𝗓𝗓𝗏, the thing is, I already spoke with the owner about it throughout the weeks following my resignation. I started to see, I guess, a little bit of wishy-washy patterns, and the schedule constantly changing for when I'm supposed to meet with the owner. And so there was a lot of things that I couldn't eventually take as seriously over time. My advice is, if something does not feel as promising as it did, if someone is making you feel uncomfortable, and if you're feeling like you're being perhaps taken advantage of, then it's okay to walk away or to speak out about it. You are not obligated to give them all your time to explain yourself. As cold as it might sound, in a professional dynamic, it's completely fine to feel uncomfortable and leave whenever you wish to. Of course, not everybody can leave, but it's always good to keep on looking for the next opportunity so that you don't feel that you have to stay in the same place. And I wasn't comfortable anymore. This whole thing is about your integrity coming first, putting yourself first, and ultimately, what is it that you wanted out of this when you were first getting into it? And if you feel like it's not living up to those expectations anymore, then it's safe to walk away from it. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And don't let anyone tell you you owe them a reason for why you're leaving. Obviously, it's been a little slow, but I mean, I am definitely happy where things are going with What's Your Journey. I had to figure some things out, obviously, with my own life and just reshaping how I'm gonna keep going with my career now, right? I'm not gonna stop here. Obviously, I'm gonna keep looking for other mentors, other guides that can continue helping me as a person. And for me, I want to continue doing hands-on work with other people and networking, because I feel like there was a lot of time that I didn't give myself to network. And so I'm gonna continue doing that. Thank you so much, guys. Stay safe and have a good day, and see you next time.